and my fabulous co-host here, Sherry Sotelo. We are talking about living life. We're talking about maneuvering life. For those of you who are in recovery, you are familiar with the 12 steps, or even if you're not, I know you've heard of the 12 steps because many have adopted those, as a way of life, as a way of knowing how to live life. And I happen to be one of those people. And as a matter of fact, for the past 33 years, my life has been growing beautifully as I learned how to live life on life's terms, if you will. I found out early on that I wasn't equipped to live life as it shows up. And I kept bumping into life. I kept making bad decisions, and relationships were a challenge. Work was a challenge. Health was a challenge. So I'm happy to say that not only have I recovered from a hopeless state of mind and body, but I have also helped many across the globe. However, in during this time, even though I knew how things were working, I didn't always understand the why behind it, the psychology behind it, and what it does to our emotions and physically, and mentally. So that's why when I actually uh, was blessed to meet Sherry Sotelo, I was like, ooh, we got the expert. So we got the layperson and the professional making sense out of the 12 steps. And why do they work? And how do they work? And how can you make it work for you? So that's what we're doing here. And those of you who are just now joining us, if you haven't seen our previous two episodes, first episode we covered steps 1, 2, and 3. Second episode, we covered steps 5, 6, 6, 4, 5, 6, and 7. We've been having fun. Anyway, so now we are up to steps 8 and 9. So, Sherry, I would love to get your input on what we have shared so far and the impact of it as you see it before we dive into steps 8 and 9.
Well, for the folks that haven't seen it just yet, a brief recap is how to accept where we are, how to accept that there's something greater than us, how to accept the fact that we have to be willing in order to change, and that amongst all of us, we're going to walk down these paths and we may hit those bumps in the road. We may trip up, but it's okay because we just keep pushing forward and pushing forward and pushing forward. And this is where you take the road of recovery and really make it your own, but you don't have to do it alone. That's what we're here for. And we'll throw in some laughs and jokes and, maybe some science behind it. We'll see.
There's science behind it. And there are laughs and jokes because you know what? Life is fun. Life is
Yeah.
good. Once we get a hold of the things that make us miserable, and once we feel confident in who we are, right? Once
Hmm.
we accept who we are, all of a sudden, I can laugh at myself. I was like, I can't believe you just said that. Oh my God, that's just so funny. So I'm a constant source of entertainment for myself. So,
Me
yeah.
too. Hey, one liners. This is Sherry's failed fortune cookies. That's that Asian piece in me. There's things that just happen when we crack that shell and we go with it.
I love it. I love it. Okay. So let's go ahead and go into steps 8 and 9. So far in going through the first 7 steps, what has happened is we kind of started getting a hold of the things that make us feel bad about ourselves, and for me, step 6 and 7 is when my head was held higher. I was feeling with more confidence. I felt like I had more to offer. In other words, I started coming into who I am. And so, what happens along the way is that the things that I used to think were acceptable. Maybe the way I treated somebody because they deserved it. Or if they hadn't done that, I wouldn't have done this. All those things kind of started fading away because it was like, regardless of what somebody else is doing, I am responsible for my actions. I am responsible for not reacting. I'm responsible for choosing what I do. And that's where we get so we get to step 8, where we make a list of all those we have harmed along the way. And it doesn't mean you have to go beat up people. It just means maybe we said something wrong. Maybe we did something wrong. And just making a list of that. So also telling on myself, I knew step 9 was coming after 8, so I again delayed doing step 8 because, I don't want to go apologize to all those people. I don't want to admit that no, no, no. But it was pointed out to me that step 8 was just admitting to myself. That's all it was, admitting to myself. And step 9, and we'll talk about that later, but that was basically the people that I needed to apologize to would be shown to me, and I had to be mindful of not making others feel more pain to make myself feel better. Let me just put it that way. So if you're curious about what that means, hang on. We're going to be explaining what that is. So Sharon, let's get to why step 8 is really important. Why do we need to actually go back and look at our actions and impact on other people, and how we impacted their lives and how we harmed them? Why is that important for us to actually make this long list? And hopefully your lists aren't as long as mine was. But
Ah, the
yeah,
painful, painful list.
yeah,
The Yes, it's to provide closure to those open wounds. If we see ourselves as just a body, if we walked around with gaping wounds, it's infected, it's painful, it's septic, it's all of these things. And we don't leave external wounds open. Why do we have to leave internal wounds open? And so when we go and create this space for a closure and we go and say, I'm sorry I hurt you. I'm sorry that I did these things or I said these things or I took this from you or I took advantage of this. All of a sudden our wounds start to close and they start to say, even around our own body, here's that self-preservation again. Yes, I'm healing all of these things. I'm healing the stuff that's within so it stops bleeding out into everything that I do every day, every decision I make. I don't need to ooze out all of these old pieces because that's what happens when we leave things wide open and unresolved is it bleeds constantly into our day to day. So that's where that this step is so pinnacle, but yet one of the hardest things to do. It's why a lot of people come to therapy, come to my office and say, I need closure. It's like, okay, well, how do we get closure? For those that we can apologize to and accept that that's who we were, because now I get to present who I am. It allows us to move forward. We've removed all the blocks.
yeah. So before we actually get in front of somebody, as we're looking at our actions, taking responsibility for our actions, for me, there was this healing that happened that, it goes back to blaming others, as we were discussing in, step 4. You know, when we blame others for stuff, then we're disempowering ourselves, at least for me, that's, So as I was making the list, you know, it was almost like I was being honest with myself for the first time on. Like how, regardless of what other people had done, my actions had harmed them in some way, you know? And that felt really bad and good at the same time, you know? Bad that I had, I was at a place where I'm feeling a lot better and not causing harm to people. But then when I look back in the past that I had, it felt really bad and empowering at the same time, because it was like, oh, I see where I was wrong, whereas I was blind before. I couldn't see how I could have, played a part in this situation, regardless of what they had done. I had to uh, answer to myself when I put my head down, to go to sleep at night. Whether you knew or not, if I had caused you harm, I knew I did. And
Hmm.
being in that space, it was it was painful and empowering. Again, I keep saying the same thing over and over again. So what's going on with us internally when when we're looking at our actions before we even get to the other person?
Well, we are doing these mental gymnastics. We are cycling all of the things that we've done over and over and over again, whether we're putting excuses on it or justifications on it or reasons for it. And that's exhausting. That's like having, 50 tabs open on your computer and constantly trying to monitor it and not having your computer crash. We do that in our head. That's our cognitive space. And so up until you can get to each one of those tabs and close them, or each one of these instances and say, I'm sorry that this happened, then and only then can we put them on the shelf where they belong in a nice, orderly fashion. And it's like, okay, that is one more page in the book that is the story of my life. But you couldn't put all of those rumbling words and all of those feelings and all of those emotions down till you wrote it out. And then you did that next piece and you verbalized, you shared to create that safety net in the community all over again. This is how the steps are so important, done sequentially. And then you get to shelf it and say, that one is good. I know where it's at. I no longer have to carry the weight of it loosely in my head.
Yeah. So that conversation, how could you have said that, or how could you have done that? That keeps repeating, that just kind of stops, which is it's
Yes.
the beautiful quiet. Yeah.
Hmm. That quiet is also known as peace. When you
Whoa, imagine
realize,
that. Yeah.
go figure, like, what are we going to do with those things?
Yeah. What do I do with that space that I just created? That
You
feels so good.
And that actually comes up next. And that's the what am I doing that's productive and proactive for a healthier, happier life?
Yeah.
But we need it to make way. If it's all cluttered and crowded in there, this isn't the subway system in Japan. We need to stop pushing things in there and pushing things in there and actually unloading them. It's okay. Unload them.
Yeah.
Total empowerment, total control to do that.
So let's go into nine. So we decide, at least my experience, what I was told is that, right, your part is to admit, you know and then think of the look at the people that you can say I'm sorry to, the people that are still in your life, and what exactly are you sorry about, and admitting this to them, is it going to help them or is it going to harm them? So, and that's a very interesting thing, because sometimes just to feel better, we may go blurt something out to somebody, they had no clue that that had happened to them, and like, what? So how do we manage this? How do we discern who to go to, what to say, and how does that look?
I'm so glad you asked that because this is really walking on almost that dental floss thin fine line of am I blurting it out or am I apologizing for the sake of me feeling better or am I doing it for them to feel better? The healthy spot is in the middle. It does provide closure to both of us. And so this is where we have to step into our adulting, that ugly place that we all live that we would have never signed up for on our own and say, what is my apology going to do? Is it advantageous for that person to understand? Is it going to, like you said, create more harm than it did good? And how about if I understand that it's going to create more harm than it is good? How can I apologize from within? Because I'm cognizant and I'm aware that I potentially could be doing more damage if I open my mouth. So, creating that resolve silently.
So that's I've heard it called, living amends. You know, kind of part of it. Part of it is for me. There were some people that I could say, I'm sorry. People I used to hang out in the clubs and stuff with. They're like, "What are you talking about?" They were just they were just in the same place. They're like, "Oh, I don't even know what you're talking about." I'm like, "Okay," And there was the family. The family like, "Oh, I'm just so happy you're doing so well." They were just happy. It was all good stuff. I personally did not have any negative response whatsoever. However, there were a whole bunch of people that I still haven't seen, and a few decades later, I don't believe that I will ever see them. However, um, that discernment process. So, do I call this person or not? It was really important, like you said. Is it for me? Is it for them? And I'm glad you brought it up because it should be in the middle. It's supposed to make us feel better and the other person too. So it's not just about us, and it's not just about them. So what does that look like, and how do we apologize? Do we blurt everything out? Do we sit there and I say, I'm sorry for this? Do we give them 10 things, or do we just say, I'm sorry for all the times that I acted stupid around you?
Hmm.
Whatever. How do we decide what's our comfort zone? And,
Yeah,
so, yeah. What
that
do we,
phrase by itself, comfort zone. Remember what our comfort zone used to be. Comfort used to also be chaos. And
Mhm.
so if you accidentally tap your comfort zone and you create the chaos all over again, knowingly or unknowingly, then that's not the best place to operate. So, two things to probably keep in mind is respect and appreciation. Are you respectful in the delivery of your apology? Are you appreciating that person's presence? Are they appreciating your presence in that moment? And if you have question as to whether or not it will respect their time, that they appreciate it and you're appreciating them, then sure, step forward and start to deliver the message. But this is also where there should be so much self analyzation, I guess is probably a good word, prior to an apology of what is this going to sound like? How do I want to present it? Is this truly what I'm trying to say? But more than anything, if I were on the opposite end, could I take what I'm about to hear? And sometimes that's enough to turn us around and go, okay, well, maybe I have to reword this. Maybe I have to hold off, and maybe I should double check, is that person also going through something right now that this isn't the applicable time to make that apology? And so that's that, very much that respectful piece. But
Yeah.
when all else fails, turn it on yourself. This is that mirror piece. Look in the mirror, say your apology. How painful is it to you? If it's painful, reword it, reframe it, rephrase it, still work on it. That's the beauty of it. The apology doesn't come out until we spit it out.
Yeah.
And if we put it out as a list, or if we put it out in scenario format, um, don't forget to also not stop there. Go into the appreciation part of, I do appreciate you taking the time to do this with me. It's not for me, I'm hoping it's for us. And if we're trying to reestablish relationships after this mending process, then honor that person and never, ever, ever again repeat behavior, because a true apology is a change of behavior. It's not simply words.
Yeah. That's yeah, beautifully said. Now, I do want to touch on again the living amends, but people that maybe we don't have access to, or
Mhm.
maybe people we have access to, but we cannot or should not be totally honest with them, because
Absolutely.
yeah. So how do we go about feel like we're doing something? The living amends, is basically doing something for another person that you owe to this person. So what does that look like? What are some of the things we can and should do?
One is grieve it. Going through your grief steps, because you're never going to be able to apologize to some people. Perhaps they have a family and this would create far more trouble. And so picturing the situation and opportunity almost in that dead space. What do? We mourn, we grieve. Allow yourself that opportunity to mourn and grieve. You're going to go through, much like these other steps, you're going to go through your denial, you're going to go through your anger, you're going to go through your upset, you're going to want to negotiate how to make this apology in there. Then you're going to go through some sadness because the opportunity may not be there. And then you get into that acceptance piece of, you know what? I'm okay with where it's at. I've grieved the relationship that it cost me. I've grieved my piece of the who I was versus who I am today. And I'm accepting that my apology is my living amends. And it's the best thing to do because I've weighed out all options respectfully.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful, and also just for me to what's called the Ho'oponopono. Those of you who know about it, it's just basically thinking of the person and saying, "I'm sorry, please forgive me," "Thank you, I love you," and that energetically does amazing things. But just saying it feels really good. So just apologizing to
Out in the open.
sorry.
Out in the open.
Yeah, yeah, so it's beautiful. It's really healing, and for me, it kind of let go the last baggage that I was carrying on my shoulders, or the backpack of rocks that I was carrying. It was like, okay, okay, here I am. And so, you know what? Let's just keep going. We're on a roll here. Let's just keep going. So we have gone through the first 9 steps, which the first three gets us, you know, uh, living more in faith, and doing things on a daily basis that are better for us, acceptable. And 4 and 5 basically made us go back and look at who we are, take inventory of the good, the bad, the ugly, and the beautiful, and share with another human being. 6 and 7 help us with not doing those things that make us feel bad about ourselves. In other words, turning our character defects into our, emotional assets. And 8 and 9, it was really just here. Here it is. I messed up and I'm sorry. I'm just letting it go. So now that we've done all that, it kind of feels like a fresh new start. Fresh new start. And so, how do we live without baggage on? Life happens, and we're human beings, and we're definitely not perfect. So things are going to happen. So how do we? Step 10 basically just says on a daily basis we take our own inventory and apologize when needed. So our own inventory is what did I do right today? Where did I mess up today? And who do I need to apologize to? So it's incremental, and it's manageable. Very, very helpful to just keep that baggage up. So Sherry, I'm going to come back over to you on this. What do we need to do? What is the structure we need to have in our lives to be able to manage our emotions, do the right thing every day, and at the end of the day, feel good about who we are and the way how we handle things, whether it was a great situation or a stressful situation or whatever. So how do we live a life like this? Because it's almost like a dream. Like, how really people live like that. So
Uh-huh.
yeah, how do we do it?
Okay, so this is actually a conversation I give all too often, at least a couple of times a week. It's our daily decompression and knowing that today started when we rose, it will end when we sleep. Everything in between is what we've already done that we cannot take back. We did the best that we could with what we're given. It's always recognizing our situation at hand, being very real, and utilizing something called neutral self talk. This neutral self talk is operating from facts, not emotions. Because when we operate from fact and not our emotional space, then it allows us to navigate how do we want to proceed moving forward. Well, if you end the day with, I did this great, I didn't handle this one situation oh so well, my task list that I didn't get complete is just this, and tomorrow I know what I need to do. That is far more easier on the brain and the body and allows you to actually sleep than going, I'm so elated that I just got all of these things accomplished and then ignored everything else. Or I can't believe I had that conversation. I just need to replay this in my head until I can work it out. And this other thing. And oh no, I have all these tasks I didn't complete. I didn't complete. I didn't complete. And what am I going to do now? I'm so stressed. All of that emotional state doesn't allow you to be proactive or productive. So that's why that neutral place is, what are my facts? I did this well. This conversation didn't maybe go great. My tasks will still be there tomorrow. I'll get to them tomorrow. I did what I could, and it's a fresh day. So here I go. I've
Mm.
already I've already closed my day properly.
So what I'm hearing now, that's brilliant, by the way. I love the simplicity of it, and um, so the question is almost like, did I do the best I could with what I have today?
Absolutely. And the thing
Okay.
is, you did do the best you could because in that moment and whatever reaction came out, good, bad, ugly, and different, it is what you did. We cannot go back to that minute, to that moment, to that thing and change what's already done. So if we accept it for what it is and do differently next time, then that's our growth. This is how we grow as humans every day, how we grow, especially as adults every day. We learn every single day something new. And we can appreciate the fact that we just learned something new, whether it's about ourselves or about others, every day, and we can apply it starting tomorrow. But in the meantime, I need to sleep. I need to
Yeah.
re energize, resource my body, and start fresh tomorrow.
Yeah. Now, the other thing that comes up too is that the comparison of how well I can do one thing today compared to how well I could do it yesterday or tomorrow. Depending on what's going on, some days I'm emotionally I can level 10, I'm doing great. Other days, the best I can do emotionally is like a 5.
Uh
And
huh.
I'm working just as hard as maybe not even as hard, at 10. It's just the way it is. And so how do we just come to a place of acceptance, of non-judgment, you know of our abilities that day? Because that seems to be a really hard place to really be comfortable in.
That goes right back to that neutral self talk spot because how you operated yesterday, those circumstances may not be available today. Like, for instance, yesterday was 104 degrees here in Las Vegas. Today is a whopping 89 degrees, overcast, humid, more moisture than we're used to. So, yesterday I was able to move around and go great and get things accomplished. Today, my joints hurt. I'm a little bit more drained. The sun's not out. I don't even have the vitamin D that I normally get from being in Las Vegas in the middle of the desert under sunshine most of the year. So I am technically going to feel different today than I did yesterday, even though today I have more time and opportunity to accomplish tasks. Today I have all my space looks different. Things are available to me, even knocked out a couple of things that I really wanted to do, but I don't have the energy. There's factors that are on externals that we don't have control over. So here, this again, this goes with the letting go of control, letting go of the fact that there's factors that are going to always exist in our life that hinder us or help us, one or the other, because we're not at a level playing field every single day. We're not in the same circumstance we were yesterday. We're not even our chairs. If we move them a little bit to the right or a little bit to the left, that means it's not in the same place that it was yesterday. So when you can accept the fact that things change every day and we roll with it, then you roll with it.
Yeah, love it. Just do a reality check.
Mm-hmm.
Where am I? Where am I? And
What are just my facts? Simple
yeah,
facts.
yeah. And as they say, um, put down a two by four and pick up a feather, kind of thing. Because we can be pretty hard on ourselves, Like,
Every day, yeah.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, I love that. I love that neutral self talk. So I'm gonna definitely adopt that verbiage for sure. Get in your neutral self talk, and
Mm-hmm. Yes. What
that's
are
what,
my facts?
yeah. Okay, so we're going right into the home stretch here. Okay. Now, for me, for me, step 11, basically expanding our spirituality, advancing our relationship um, with God, our relationship with other people, our relationship with the universe, our relationship with nature. All of it is tied in there. And so, uh, for me, it's been very, very, very important to actually learn more about myself, about my spiritual side, because every time I was up against something that I was afraid of doing or didn't think I was capable of doing, it was like, okay, God, all right, come on, yeah, let's do this. And it was for me, maybe going to retreats, maybe learning different types of meditation, and maybe just learning different ways to talk with God. I was like, hey, I need some help here. Will you? It's like, what are you doing? Sleeping on the job? Come on. Yeah. Or other times, you just whatever it is, it's just uh, always being willing to accept help from the universe, right? So that's advancement, and it's been ever evolving. I'm always coming up with things. How to open ourselves up and be willing to explore spiritually on different levels and not be I don't know, not be coming up against religion, if you will, right? So what does that look like? And yeah, so just share, please.
Oh, this is a fun one for this day and age post COVID and the essentially the spiritual awakening around the world of what's happening and understanding that we are integrated in with the earth. We're integrated in with the environment, we're integrated in with the atmosphere and everything that goes into that, including the higher beings, however anybody sees it. Understanding that we're energetically tied to everything. We literally, I mean, this is how we operate cell phones, touch screen. We give off an energy, we receive an energy. And it's processing that energy and understanding it that'll help you create your relationship with whatever spiritual component that you decide. So it's using that consciousness, subconsciousness, and then our body to become one. And how do we merge this all together? Well, that's very unique and very individualized because people feel different things at different rates. And so, one of the things I think that is important to understand is as energy based beings, whether we're in a church with other individuals and we're feeling the positive ions coming off of one another's bodies, and that heightens our awareness and it heightens our mood and elevates the everything that's going on, or if we're sitting out and in the middle of the forest and we're sitting on the ground and we feel the actual vibration from the earth, that these things do work together constantly. It's where do you put yourself? Where are you comfortable? Our body reacts when we're not comfortable with something. And so that's something we also have to listen to. And then create space. That could be your spirituality. That could be your higher power. That could be your higher being. It's being okay with what's in your skin. All the little tinglies, those are the things that belong in our spirituality.
So how do we identify the things that are more aligned with who we are? Because there's so
Mhm.
many ways we can advance our spirituality. And I'll give you an example. I was trying hard to meditate, and I couldn't sit still. Like there's something wrong with me.
You and
There's
every ADHD
something,
person. I was
yeah,
like,
there's something wrong
take
with me.
medication off the table. It's not going to work.
Yeah, yeah. So I actually went to a 3-day retreat on meditation styles.
How'd that work?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So I walked away with the understanding that my primary meditation style is being in action, walking on
Yes,
the beach, walking on a path on a
exactly.
mountain, being around nature. So that's when I can literally feel nature. Now, having said that, I'm happy to say over the years I can sit and meditate for an hour with no problem now, just because I have learned different ways of going to where I want to go, and so uh, how do we become okay with whatever it is, the different ways and stuff? Yeah.
Listen to your body. Your body will tell you. And this is the other thing because our mind will say one thing, our mouths will say another thing and lie to us. Just like I can go and meditate for an hour, but I have ADHD. Whew, can't sit. Your body starts to react. And this is that brain body connection that we really have to be okay with and recognize. So when something is not a good fit for us, typically stomach will start to turn, the acids will start to kick up, our little nerves will fire rapidly. You'll feel it in your hands, you'll feel it in your feet, also known as anxiety. You'll create a bit of anxiety because we're looking to in that fight or flight mode, that this does not sit well with us for whatever reason, and we're allowed to own that. Certain types of things do not have to be forced upon us and that we're going to grow to love one day. Maybe it just will never be an okay fit. Your body will always tell you. Your body will tell you because it's trying to operate in self preservation. It's the get out of there. This isn't right for you. Now, more often than not, people sit in that uncomfort level for far too long trying to make it work. And that's important, just as important to recognize and move away from something so that you can find what's in your better path, what's in your better interest, what's in um, a more productive state. So when you have that question of how do I know if this is right for me, stop your mind for a second. Definitely don't open your mouth. Scan your body. What does it say? It's always going to want to protect itself. So what does it say?
Love it. So then, should we go back from time to time, revisit some of the things we tried that it didn't work for us as we change?
Absolutely. Because that's the thing is when we're operating in an active addiction, we're not paying attention to our body. We're literally cut off from here down because we're inebriated and somehow we're intoxicated, we're high as a kite, whatever we want to call it. We're emotionally invested into something. We're not paying attention to our body because everything is up here. And so asking yourself, did I give something a fair chance? Did I truly give it a fair chance? Because I couldn't listen to my body before. It had some level of substance going on over there. And of course, it's like putting on glasses that aren't your prescription. You didn't see it.
Yeah.
You couldn't have known it. You couldn't have known any different. So, how to be fair to yourself? Well, if you feel like maybe it deserves a shot, you're in control of that. Go take it. Why not?
Yeah.
What's it going to hurt? You've already been down that road before. You know you've survived it once.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for me it was really important because, like I said, I can now meditate without feeling anxious or anything like that, whereas before I couldn't. So it's a gradual process and ever evolving. And try different kinds of things.
Yeah.
Like different types of meditations and things. And as they say, prayer is talking to God, meditation is listening to God. And so, how many different ways can you listen to Him? Where can you listen anyway? So. Okay, so step 12. This this is the most satisfying for several reasons for me. And one is it satisfies the part of me that wants to go fix everything and everybody. So that part of me that still needs work, right? Because I'm still in a, but the other part of me that I have found something that works, because I was searching and searching and searching, didn't know what was wrong with me, and I have found something that works, and because I know the things that I have gone through, I can see other people going through similar things, and I intuitively know what I can share with them, because my attitude always was, I'm unique. You don't know what I'm the only one going through this. I'm the only one. I'm the only one. And until I started talking with people who had similar experiences, when I could no longer say, no, I'm the only one, you don't know, that's when I started opening up. And so that part of me, wanting to share that, and help others, is just such a beautiful experience, and to see people's eyes light up when they get that connection of, finally somebody gets me. Whether we're talking about a spiritual aspect of it, whether we're talking about addiction, whether we're talking about how to do something or other, whatever it may be, just because I have done all these things, I have an arsenal of tools and resources and stories that I can share with people. And so it keeps everything fresh and new to me, because every time I share something with somebody else, I'm helping myself at the same time. And so, why, coming back to you, right? Why is that so? Why is it that we want to go help people? Because it helps us. you know, or just, how does that work? How does that work?
That gratifying piece of showing enough self awareness to open up to human compassion. This, again, satisfies what we are as a species, that communal species. We will always link with others because that's what we're meant to do. So it's, you've found your purpose. Your purpose amongst others, your purpose to protect others, your purpose to protect yourself, and find harmony in all of it. It's entirely everything we're here for. And you're going to want to nurture it, and it's part of our nature. So this is really where our brains are built around. It's to do just that. So whether we found that as step 12, or we found that as enlightenment, or we found that as self-awareness, we found what our biological purpose is: to take care of one another and continue.
That's beautiful. You know what? Yeah, that makes perfect sense. So, it instead of thinking of it as being selfish, helping others because it's helping me, it's like, no, that's my purpose. it's being part of a community, contributing to the community in whatever capacity that I'm able to, and let others contribute whatever capacity that they're able to at this time. And so I'm loving that I went full circle, came back to my natural self, as it should be, right?
Yes.
As we were intended to be. Oh, that's a beautiful way to wrap this up. Oh, yeah, my gosh. Oh, is there anything that we want to add before we wrap it up? Because I just love the way you just the spin you put on things, your perspective on things, and the way you explain things is just beautiful. So, is there anything that we need to add right now?
We've covered so much, and I think it does leave everybody in a really good spot. So, unless there's more questions, and I'm always open.
Yeah. Oh, I'll be definitely reaching out to you for more because I'll be coming out. I'll be coming out with more things. We need to add to the series.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. So, oh, thank you so much, Sherry. I just so appreciate you. And
I'm glad you picked me. Thank you for picking me. I appreciate you.
oh, I didn't pick you. We were picked.
Yes.
We were picked. The lay person and the professional, as we call it. Making sense out of life, making sense out of what to do. I know that for me, it's almost like before I got a hold of these 12 steps, I was just bumping around in the dark. And this almost feels like, it's like, like we have paint by number when we're kids. This is live life by number. It doesn't make a difference what's going on in my life. One of the steps always applies. And a lot of times I can use all 12 of them for the major things. So it just tells me what to do and how to live a happy, healthy, and prosperous life, right? Uh,
Mhm.
as we say, happy, joyful, and free. That's what this series is. And so, if you're watching this, you haven't watched the previous segments, or 1, 2, 3, steps 1, 2, 3, and steps 4 to 7, and this one, steps 8 to 12. So thanks again, Sherry. I so appreciate you, and we definitely will be doing this again. So really, really, really thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everybody, we're signing off, and please do comment.